Okay, so... Well, long story short, deciding to do this a bit off the cuff. Very short on time, as you can imagine. Starting out with requiring a bay, and of course I'm out of bays, so something has to go. Didn't quite like the helium addition to this bot, so there's 2 other versions. Bye-bye. And... okay. So, first things first, Jarrod, or Jarrod. I'm notoriously bad at pronunciation. Let's see what we've got. You're a new player, from what I understand. This is the first time I'm looking at your bots. Well, seems you've been around for a while, doesn't seem very new. It's fine. Really cool looking. Single leg. So what don't I have? Ah, Pilot's Mega. Gotcha. Alright, well, alright, let's see what we can get, or try out. This is entering Mega territory. Probably. Looks damn awesome though. Is this even functional? The ski bot. Huh. Something tells me we can go faster than 280. Ah, it has hovers, okay. Okay, that explains the speed. Okay, so hovers basically ruin everything as far as top speed is concerned. Hang on. This thing also has a rotor underneath. Is that a T2 rotor? So it's a rotor ski hover with plenty of speed boost. Huh, interesting. I'm just curious to see if it works. So let's just test it. Ouch, my ears. This thing. Huh. It does have some punch. Intriguing. This thing has interesting moves. Some strafe capability, especially near the ground. Can't help but think that it is definitely not intended to take hits. But I have to say I'm impressed with the movement. And what if I were to put it right on the ground? Any improvement there? Okay. 275. And in the air, 225. Alright, fair enough. Yep, want to go faster? Get those skis in. Those skis make a difference. Alright. Interesting. Very interesting. Can't resist taking a quick look. First things first, let's get rid of the additional cosmetics. Pushing over into Megabot territory because that was kind of annoying me. Ah, this thing also has rudders. Yeah, that's interesting. Of course, the most obvious question at this point Does this thing have anything in the form of anti-split protection? It does not appear so. So this is the front. These are blocks. Right behind them is a module. Behind that, more blocks. Alright, that's to be expected. Still connected. I think what's really connecting this together at this point is this. Yeah, so okay, no split protection, but still looks damn cool. So yeah, nice. One thing that I would definitely recommend for a build like this, first of all, it's completely unnecessary for this to be made completely out of compacts. At the very least, you would want connection between this section and that section in some shape or form. You'd want to have things pass through. I would suggest that in terms of block substitutions, I would start substituting the rear end. I mean, of the entirety of this build, I'd say that these blocks here are the most, let's call them disposable. You know what? Just remove the cosmetic blocks for a moment. Wait, it's easier to see. So this entire section is what I consider to be a candidate for light blocks, for instance, if weight is an issue. This intersection could remain in a single piece. One thing I feel I have to point out is that this is connected to both of these, and likewise this is connected to the same block that this is connected to. So there's a bit of let's call it an inefficiency there. You definitely want to, in this case, expand the entire build slightly further out. And in fact, I'll show you very briefly. Let's just remove this for ease. Go for something like, I mean, this is not going to be exactly the same, but it's kind of along the lines. Obviously, you need to improve the connections because you don't want all of these going to the same adjacent blocks. You need to get creative about separating the connection points directly. There are ways to do that, but anyway, the point is to just illustrate a relatively simple, we would even say that you can go for lights at this point. There's no point for in actually going for those compact blocks at this point. Okay, this is a bit too far, no problem. Those were T4s, I believe. Or the T5s? Yeah, they may have been T5s. Yeah, T5s they were. Okay, no B. These get removed temporarily. Make way. And you have a situation now where, okay, it's slightly larger, but an impact taken by a single one of these doesn't, ruin the entire connection. You could also have them route indirectly to the rest of the build. So, for instance, let's use lights here again. Does it? Okay, fine. Janky hitboxes. But in any case, you can just re-implement the connection accordingly. Also, you can also avoid fusing important connection points in the process, and you get very much the same aesthetic, perhaps with a slight, adjustment here and there. Okay, well, looks like we've broken the bank there, but it's simply a matter of replacing even more of these, and you're kind of getting the same shape, more or less. Alright. Looks like I'm breaking the bank again, but it's okay. The idea is there. Slightly larger, but works just as well, and your thrusters aren't connected to the same thing. Of course, in the same way I connected this thruster to the outer shell, so it's basically dual mounted. You can do the same or similarly with most of the others, and well, you can figure that out. It's just the idea there. But hey, this is an intriguing build. It's a nice build, and of course, there's the whole possibility of somehow getting connection all the way from here through to here through rods, probably passing above or below the propeller. In fact, for this purpose, you might actually want to go for the small propeller, and the reason you might want to consider that, even though it's lower speed boost per propeller, unless of course it impedes. Yeah, okay, in this case it kind of overlaps with stuff, so maybe not. But let's say we're to slightly improvise. The advantage of a small prop is that you can run a rod right across the top or the bottom without any issue, and that's pretty okay. In fact, in this case, it might even be better to slightly higher than ever was, as far as the mounting points were concerned. Okay, I see. Right. I messed up the mount. Did I mess up the mount? No, I didn't mess up the mount. Let's try again. Wrong way. That'll do. And with that out of the way, and very simply run our connection across. So we now have a nice independent connection all the way across. Now, I'm not saying this is the most efficient way to do it, but I'm just saying that if you ever make a build similar to this, good, run across. But I like the creativity of the entirety of the build, so that's cool. Let's just dismantle and get back to the store. I must admit, I wasn't expecting to see anywhere near as many bots as this. I was kind of expecting to see one or two, but clearly I very much underestimated. So that's what we saw previously, the fast healer. Let's take a look at bad weather, for bad weather. Oh, well, I wonder why it's called for bad weather. Okay, so it's a Lommel chain gun hoverplane, and that's really interesting. Now, I have an admission to make. I don't have a single bot in my inventory that features a window maker. I'm not saying it's a bad module, although it certainly was a bad module, but it never really spoke to me as a module. It didn't really do enough. I'm not even sure I particularly agree with the way it entirely works right now, so... Okay, this definitely feels like a hoverplane. Definitely intended for higher altitudes. Quite drifty, thanks to the hover. I mean, there's no arguing with the firepower. But the elephant in the room is toughness. I don't get the impression that this can handle a hit. However, it does look awesome. Very nice. Okay, let's go into the next one. Is this the same one? No, it's not. Ooh, this looks nice. It's a killer. EMP plus extra power. Right. So, I'm noticing a trend. Really great creativity going on. Again, very good firepower. I believe this is... no, it's not even a hover. I mean, it is a hover, but it only has the one hover. It relies upon a single tanky hover for its hover. Let's give it a try. Again, I'm dubious about its toughness, but what I'm really curious about is how it handles. Okay, this handles a little more nicely than... you know, let's just appreciate the creativity here, the beauty of this bot. It has a certain beautiful brutality to it, if that makes sense. Yeah, very nice. Definitely something that you'd want to handle things at range. And I'm guessing that the rear shielding allows for better getaways, I imagine. So it's intended to actually run away. Or perhaps that'll be more easily used with keyboard controls, I don't know. Oh, nice. Now let's see one more bot, let's see which bot it's gonna be. But one thing I've noticed about all of these builds really is that they're really creative, nice to look at. They tend to have good firepower, this is no exception, but I'm not convinced about the in terms of their toughness. There's always room for improvement, to be fair, but it looks awesome, so great. And let's see, Big Brother, huh? Okay, this looks very similar. I mean, I'm noticing a trend. A lot of these bots have similar, let's call it the design philosophy. It's like the gun, which is connected to a platform, which is interesting, and itself, these are themselves connected to movement parts. And one thing I have to point out is that this entire section appears to be connected to the core by a single rod. So, really beautiful, but also tragically vulnerable. Take a single shot, these two locations, you basically lose more than half your bot. And I am curious, are there any rudders on this midsection? Yes, there are. There's two rudders here, so... and there's also more hovers. Okay, there's more hovers. So the fact that there's 3 hovers, that means this thing can kind of move away, so it can survive the loss of its weapons. However, yeah, it's a beautiful art bot. Let's see what else there is. Ah, tank. Ooh. I really like the design aesthetic. It's actually a pure flak bot. That is awesome. Of course, I have to point out that... oh, this is... I mean, look at that. I mean, leaving aside practicality for a moment, I have to appreciate the creativity that went into this. It has a floating section of front armor, which is nice. It would have been even nicer if the section had some kind of protection in the middle, like a strut or something, to protect this vulnerable point right down the middle. Could also have been connected to this exposed connection point of the weapon energy module. Move it forward, up, and you have some protection there. The mounting point, like you could even connect these electric plates, dual mount them to the. No, you can't. What am I saying? The propeller's right there. I see, the propeller's in the way. I get it. Okay, well, that does limit your options. However, you could still consider routing. You could, but then the rod could end up being vulnerable, so yeah, your options are rather limited at this point. The fact that you connected the whole thing from the top is a little concerning, but in any case, it's beautiful. And this weak point here, these plates are connected to the same cube, so they're okay. So let's put it this way: this bot is clearly made by somebody with a lot of creativity, and you can make really awesome things in Robocraft, even if you don't fully understand what makes a bot effective, which in the case of Robocraft, one of the simpler ways to make an effective bot is connection points redundancy. And damage routing in general. So looking at the flags for a moment, it seems that only the 2 connection points are being meaningfully used, and that's if I'm seeing correctly. It might actually be just the one. I think it is actually just the one. So it's just the one connection point. You hit this block or this rod, or this block here, this section here, this entire section here, these 2 sections would take out the entire gun and everything that's attached to them to protect the gun. So yeah, from a practicality standpoint, I can't really give us a thumbs up. From a creativity standpoint, I really like the aesthetic. The tracks do have a very slight amount of redundancy, although the shoulder sections don't really have a lot of protection. There's the props, but they're not very protective from this angle. So yeah, there's that. I mean, I don't want to beat on the design. It's certainly aesthetically pleasing. It's just that it probably wouldn't hold up very well. Okay, this is another one of those designs that Jarrod likes making, which is cool. I mean, this is quite a cool design. Chain guns and levels again. I think it's just a recolored version of the other one, if I'm not mistaken, but still cool. Let's see, what else have I not seen? Which is around 2000 CPU. Let's take a look at this. This looks like a recolor of one of the ones we've already seen. If not one of the ones we've already seen. Still cool. Battery's not included, huh? That is awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Interesting use of cosmetics. Weapon engine module in there. Has hovers, has rudders, chain guns. In terms of aesthetics, it's very nice. I'm tempted to try this out, but I did say it would be just the one more, so let's see. I might come back to that, who knows. Rex. Again, this person has an interesting design aesthetic. No, I should say here. Okay, this is similar to the one we saw first. Okay, this makes me hungry. Oh! This looks awesome. Nice use of struts for aesthetic effects. Again, I'm noticing that the connection points of those chain guns aren't being used efficiently. So, one thing you really want is that if you have a gun that has 5 connection points, you don't want to use just the one, because if that one connection point gets, you know, compromised, the entire gun falls off. So, there's that. However, it does look awesome, and if I go further in... No. For a moment there I thought I was going to see rods, but no rods in there that I can see. Design aesthetic is awesome. Nothing short of awesome. I like the front. One thing I want to point out when designing mechs in general, especially, or any bot that is relatively slow, is that you want to try to avoid a profile which is described as, you know, flat in terms of health density. Because the way things stand, this section here is only slightly more tough than these sections, and that's probably due to the modules in between. That's my take, and technically this section here is actually even tougher than the middle section because of the legs. Now, a very simple solution here is to just build a little further back, a little further forward to thicken the section. It's something that you would, for example, see that I did with the Reckoning, for example. And well, this is a very attractive bot. I like it. Nice. Just, you know, those connection points. I like the way you armored the one connection point, but in my opinion, you'd actually have been better off having no armor around the connection points and using all 5 of those connection points. Because, well, redundancy is a lot more difficult to result in this. Well, dealing with redundancy and dealing with a single layer of armor, the armor is going to fail first. So there's that. And moving on. Big Mac. Moving on. Let's see, anything I have not seen. Daedalus. Okay, interesting design. Curious. Very curious. I could try this out, but obviously the same issue as before. Try to avoid a situation where you have a single row of or single block connected to 2 or more essential parts. That is a big no-no. A very big no-no. Samurai. Okay. This is another variant on the single leg bot. I am curious, does this thing have hovers? Because if it doesn't have hovers at one leg, oh boy. However, looks awesome. Let's see, what else? I was actually trying to click on this. 3D. Oh! That's a nice design aesthetic. Love the whole 3D glasses. That's just nice. Yeah, I have to admit, this is one of the most distinctive bots in the list, and you know what? So much so I'm going to give this a try. Alright, let's give it a test. Okay, it's in Megabot territory. Right, does this have rudders? Yes, it has rudders. It technically has rudders. The question is, how strong are those rudders? We need to nose up. Kinda looks like a minion. It's a minion Robocraft. Except there's a bit too much black, I guess, for a minion. Top points for creativity. Alright, well, that's cool. Now you're not allowed to face the right way. Okay, fine, you're allowed. Alright, well, I like the look of the bots. There's definitely room for improvement. However, I did really like the aesthetics of these bots. These bots are just works of art for the most part. Well, I don't know if I'd call them works of art, but they're definitely very, very visually pleasing. I mean, come on, that's just awesome. These guns are also pretty well mounted towards the back of the build, so you've got plenty of natural armor in front, to the front, and a pretty decent focal point. Nice. Alright, so which one am I going to try? I guess I could go for the sand. Yeah, let's do it. Alright, let's do it, and I think go for some single player. Oh, it's nice to see the EMP actually work on bots for once in single player mode. No guns, no glory. Jarrod, I apologize if I seemed a bit critical of assessing the practical aspects of your builds. There's definitely room for improvement, and I think that the key takeaways with regards to your builds is as follows. You need to, first of all, your design aesthetic, I love it. I think that you should try to refine upon the existing aesthetic. I don't think you should abandon it. The quirkiness, the certain design choices, sure, some design choices will be a little suboptimal, like for example having shielding on the back rather than the front. Depending on how you use it, I suppose. If you're running away, those shields could be kind of handy. But the ways that you really need to enhance your building skills, in my opinion, or I should say things you should explore in future builds, is focusing more upon redundancy. So speaking about this particular bot, this has way better redundancy than the previous bot that I had criticized, let's say. First of all, it's a bigger section. It still hasn't got any connections to other sections on the front, however, it does have... oh no. It does have 3 rods moving in, which is fine in itself. However, as soon as we come in all the way over here, you'll notice that those 3 connections lead down to a single connection point. So, okay, fair enough. So here, that's fine. So here's how I would modify this bot straight away. And I don't see any reason not to, from what I can see. These short rods, replace them with long rods. These blocks, these 4 blocks, remove entirely. They're not serving a purpose, as far as I can see. And instead, place the blocks here, so that these long rods end up here, and you end up with effectively a broadened single connection. Ideally, you'd have more than one connection leading to a different section, so that the likelihood of this entire section, this expensive section of your bot, being blown out by an unlucky hit from an unfortunate angle is greatly reduced. Another thing you can do is to spread your connections. So looking at this as an example, right now we have two minor rods moving in from the side, which is not something I totally be against. It's something I have used in the past. Let's see if I can find any examples of this. Kind of. Go on, I have to have something more clear. Okay. Is this more clear? No. Okay. Fine. This is an example of spread connections. So you'll notice that even though I'm connecting this wing with 3 rods, the rods spread out their connections to different parts of the build. Now, this could result in a situation where an impact to the wing itself will result in wider spread in damage, which isn't necessarily a good thing. However, it also means that the part itself is less likely to be destroyed if, for example, this entire section of the bot gets chewed up, because there's still one connection left over there. Or likewise, if the midsection of his bot gets chewed up, there's at least one of these connections which leads to the back, for example, which is still active, and therefore the wing he was going, unless the wing itself is destroyed in the process. So that's the benefit of having further spread connections. Now where'd the bot go? Oh yes. There you are. So damage routing is important. The further away connections are, the more durable the thing they're connecting to is in terms of losing connections. The more connections there are, also the better. Damn it, well, redundancy is a value unto itself. I understand that a lot of this is aesthetic, but there's always room for improvement, and you don't have to sacrifice the aesthetics of a build in order to enhance the practicality of it. So, for instance, going for that thing I mentioned earlier, you could, for instance, have these two be separate connections, which go, you know, long curved rods. You know what? Let's just very quickly demonstrate, because I'm a sucker for doing so. So, as per my suggestion, see that one connection point destroyed the entire section because it was critted off. So that's why this is important. So let's talk replacements now. By replacing the short curved for long curved, and let's say, for the sake of argument, we're using a light just to make it cheaper so I can demonstrate this easier. This already is an improvement. Of course, one could connect to the section in between if one wishes to, but I get the feeling that in order to spread out the connections a little further, it would be beneficial to simply replace that with, say, one of these. I'm going to get rid of this for now, even though I didn't want to impact the aesthetic. And this results in a longer connection. I mean, that's one possibility. Another possibility here, this is a connection, this is an active connection, so I have to keep that in mind. Another possibility. I mean, technically speaking, this on its own is already tougher as a connection than the previous 3 rods and that stuff was, because there's 2 connections over rather than just the one, which is already a huge improvement. A further improvement here could, in fact, be to, again, go for the long rod treatment. And what this does is that should this be destroyed and this be destroyed, yes, if you happen to have both of them destroyed on both sides, yes, you'll have the entire thing wiped out. But if a single connection of those 4 connection points remains, your bot is still active. So connection redundancy is something that I really can't stress enough as being an important element. I mean, this is just one way to go about it. Obviously, I'm not an expert in your chosen aesthetic, but split protection and such would benefit. Another possibility, by the way, instead of connecting them to each other, one could choose for instance, to connect across to each other from a different angle. Of course, this could also impact the aesthetic, so I understand that is not a preferred option. One would want to try to avoid, I mean, here's another possibility. You've already created an outcrop of blocks here. One could take the opportunity let's turn on mirror mode. Although in this case I think it would look better if one used the rod. Let's try again. Rod. This does look slightly better in my opinion. either connect to the right, or we could connect backwards. And that could okay, fine, it's over, no biggie. In this case, and one has a situation where there's an indirect connection going all the way across. Not my preferred option, but it's an option. There are other ways to connect them together. Rods are pretty handy for that. One could also go for a simple rodded approach, and that actually doesn't look bad if you think about it. I mean, I don't have access to this cutter on this account, but this could easily have been color coded to match their respective aspects. And speaking of which, I do notice again that you've used compact blocks for the majority of the build. In this case, the outer section, with the exception of the most essential parts of the connections, like the actual connection points of the guns themselves, these sections could be substituted, at least in part, with compact, so that would give you enough CPU to run rods across. And I'm not going to say this is the most efficient way to do this, but it would improve the survivability of the bot in general. So anyway, that's all I have for you for the moment. And again, Jarrod, if you have any questions, do let me know. And for anybody else watching, I do think that Jarrod did a pretty good job on his bots. They aren't necessarily competitive, but they are definitely attractive. And I think that there's something to be said for people who make bots that aren't necessarily immediately, you know, effective per se. They're not necessarily flawless. However, there's something to be said for the value of character that flaws can bring to a build. There's a certain beauty to a bot like this, at least in my opinion. So yeah, Jarrod, nicely done, and thanks for sharing. And to the rest of you, thanks for watching. I apologize if I'm a little, you know, low on energy. This is kind of a last-minute thing. Had intended on covering Robocraft 2's recent updates, and I'll do so, but not this time, not right now. And of course, in the meantime, thank you for watching.